Here we are again at Praxis Group International, where you are passing your TOEFL IBT. My name is Mr. Hearn, and I am your TOEFL tutor. In this video, we're going to talk about identifying reading section question types. Now, understand that this isn't about identifying the reading section question types. This is about maintaining control over your own mind and emotions during the test. The TOEFL IBT is designed to take over your mind and your emotions to create this feeling that you're not able to understand English well enough, that you're not going to be able to answer the questions in time, that you have anxiety, that you're overwhelmed, that you're confused. That's by design. ETS makes $5 billion a year tricking you out of your score and your good life. So let's get in control of ourselves, and the way we do that first is to identify question types. Understand that there are procedures that keep you in control of the test. And when you do these procedures, one leads to the next, and the test gives you the answers. You know it's a multiple choice test, right? The reading section, it's multiple choice. They give you the information in the passages, and they give you the answers in the choices. So why is it such a hard test? Because it's psychological. It's psychological. So what we're going to do is we're going to maintain control by identifying question types, but understand that there are little things that make a big difference to you passing your test with a respectable passing score. One of those is asking yourself questions. This is important. I have two kinds of students. Those who just try to take the test and do as best they can and answer all the questions right and get a high score and be done with this stupid thing so they can get on with their life. And then I have those that deliberately follow certain procedures. They ask themselves questions, the test gives them the answers. They're able to answer the questions quickly and accurately, and by default, as a matter of course, they get that respectable passing score and they move on with their life. So what kind of student do you want to be? Do you want to be that person who just wants to know how to do it so they can get that high score, or the person who really knows what they're doing? So they not only get a high score on the TOEFL, but if you're going to university, you're able to maintain high grades and get your work done in less time. So you have time to go have fun. So let's get into it. We're going to look at question types on the TOEFL IBT, and I'm going to show them to you in a certain order that I want you to master them. So let's look at the insert sentence questions. Remember, we're not just identifying the question type, we're keeping ourselves in control of the test. Let's take a look. The questions we're looking at come directly from the official TOEFL IBT tests, Volume 1, 5th edition, from the people who make the test. That's ETS. Remember that when you're preparing to take your TOEFL IBT, use only the newest official TOEFL IBT test from ETS. Anything else is a waste of time and can actually cause you to get a lower score. Starting out with insert sentence questions. Insert sentence questions are easily identified. They will always be either question number 9 or 19. And you can easily identify them because they will have either numbers, letters, or squares in the question, either related numbers, letters, or squares in the paragraph, and the related numbers, letters, or squares for your choices. Keep in mind that if you have squares for your choices, it will be a drag and drop question where you'll have to drag the bolded sentence and drop it in the place where you think it fits in your passage. You have a bold sentence that must be placed somewhere within the paragraph. Okay, so that's mechanically identifying the question type. I mean, it's not a big deal to identify because it's always the same structure. It's always the same numbers, 9 and 19. When you get to the test, you'll know it's like, oh, I know that number 9 is the insert sentence question. So I don't have to ask myself that. I already know it. You must ask yourself, what kind of question is it? Because if you don't ask yourself that question, your brain goes, I don't know what to do. This is overwhelming. You start all kinds of extra self-talk that wastes time and creates anxiety. Now, you might not think that's happening to you, but I can assure you that once you start being aware of what's happening to you, you'll realize that Mr. Hearn's not a crazy old man. He really knows what he's doing, and I can help you pass this test with a high score. So when you see this question, even though it's obvious, ask yourself, what kind of question is it? And yourself will tell you it's an insert sentence question. This gives you that sense of control. Okay? This question is going to try to take over your mind in so many subtle ways that maybe you don't realize it at first. But once you see it, you're going to be like, oh my God, it does happen. Let me show you something that happens with this question. Take a look. Here we are back at the insert sentence question. What's the first thing you notice about it? Well, you notice that it is an insert sentence question. It's question number 9. Yes, but what don't you see right away? It has 2 paragraphs, right? It's so big and so long that you even have to scroll down to see all the information. So this question is designed to be overwhelming, to be intimidating, to make you think, oh my God, there's so much to read. I'm never going to be able to answer this question in time. I'm going to have to test again. You see how they do that? This is how they take over your mind in little ways and waste your time and create anxiety and confusion and cause you to quit on yourself in the middle of the test. So be aware, beware, and be prepared for this test, and you will get that respectable passing score. Now, I'm not going to show you how to answer this question because right now I'm showing you how to identify question types so that you can maintain control of yourself during the test and be able to answer the questions quickly and accurately, getting that respectable passing score and getting on with your life. Let's take a look at the next question type, and that's the highlighted sentence questions. Let's take a look. Yes, here we are looking at a highlighted sentence question. Now, I know there are other tutors that call it different things like sentence simplification or paraphrase sentence question. I don't like those names. I like to call it a highlighted sentence question because it's impossible to make a mistake when you're calling it a highlighted sentence question. The question itself says highlighted sentence, and you have a highlighted sentence in the paragraph. By doing it this way, it gives you that sense of control. You know exactly what you're doing. So by identifying this question type and physically ask yourself, what kind of question is it? You'll tell yourself it's a highlighted sentence question. It'll give you that feeling of being in control. And once you're in control, you can go to the next procedure, which will keep you in control of yourself so that you can answer this question quickly and accurately using the procedures that I teach you in the highlighted sentence video. Yes, by the way, if you haven't seen the insert sentence question videos and the highlighted sentence question videos, I strongly suggest that you do so. If you need to see the other videos, subscribe to my online TOEFL video course so that you can know how to answer all of these questions quickly and accurately and not have to take this test again. Okay, get a respectable passing score. Let's move on to the summary questions. How do you feel about summary questions? Are they giving you a hard time? Let's see how to identify them. But more than that, how do we keep ourselves in control while identifying them? Let's take a look. Summary questions are always number 10 and number 20 on your TOEFL test. These are questions that are often very intimidating right from the start because they're long. You have 6 choices to choose from instead of 4, and you have to choose 3 of the 6 in order to get the 2 points. Okay, if you're not familiar with the TOEFL IBT, when you're answering this question, if you get 3 choices right out of the 6, you get 2 points. If you only get 2 choices right out of the 6, you get 1 point. But if you get 1 or 0 questions right, you get no points. This question is very intimidating because people often try for those 2 points. It's not necessary. In fact, trying to get that second point can take a long time and will actually cause you to lose points overall because if you're on question number 10 it'll take so much time that you don't have enough time to answer the rest of the questions in the second passage. So in my videos, I teach you how to answer this question quickly and accurately, guaranteeing that you get at least 1 point and probably 2. You got to watch the video and practice. Okay, let's take a look at this again because there's some more aspects to this question that you need to know psychologically so it doesn't overwhelm you. Let's take a look. There are a few things I want to talk to you about with this question. The first one is that I've already stated that don't try for the 2 points. Go for 1 point, saving time so that you can answer more questions right. The second thing I want to talk to you about is what you should focus on with this question. Most tutors are focusing on the first part of the question. An introductory sentence for a brief summary of the passage is provided below. And in this case, it's on the side. Helpful tip, don't read this sentence. It is a distraction. It's designed to prevent you from answering the question correctly. The second thing that most tutors focus on is the second part of the question, which states, complete the summary by selecting the 3 answer choices that express the most important ideas in the passage. Helpful tip, forget about that. That too is a distraction. Keep in mind that the TOEFL IBT is a test of following procedures and rules. There are rules for every question type, and you must obey those rules to answer it correctly. So what should you be focusing on? The rules. Some sentences do not belong in the summary because they express ideas that are not presented in the passage or are minor ideas in the passage. All right, understand that the TOEFL IBT is not a test of reading comprehension and answering questions based on what you learned. This is a test of knowing certain procedures and rules and being able to use those procedures and rules while working under pressure. That's what the clock is for, okay? To put you under that time pressure. The better you know your procedures and rules, the faster you'll be able to answer questions accurately and get a respectable passing score. So what I'm showing you is, forget about all the extraneous stuff, the stuff that's there to distract you. Use the rules and procedures of the test to answer the questions quickly and accurately so you don't have to take the test again. Once you pass, you're done. All right, now that we've seen the first 3 question types, let's go to look at vocabulary and context questions. Now, there are a lot of tutors teaching all about vocabulary and they're focusing on vocabulary. I just want to let you know that it's not about the vocabulary, okay? You learn about that more in my videos that talk about answering vocabulary and context questions. So look for that in my YouTube videos. Now, let's take a look at vocabulary questions so we can identify them. This is your typical vocabulary and context question. You'll see that the question has a highlighted word and it ends in the words meaning to. In your paragraph, you have the highlighted word that matches the highlighted word in the question. These are classic vocabulary and context questions. But let's take a look at another vocabulary and context question so that you are thoroughly prepared for this test. These are fairly new for ETS. It is a slightly different style of vocabulary and context question. You'll notice that it still has the highlighted words in the question, but it says the phrase instead of the word. And instead of saying meaning to, it says meaning to a period. So it's directly relating to the highlighted words in the paragraph. Don't forget to ask yourself, what kind of question is this? And then tell yourself that this is a highlighted sentence question which keeps you in control of the test. I cannot stress it enough that when you see a question, ask yourself, what kind of question is it? And physically identify the question because that will help you to maintain control of your mind and your emotions. This test is very subtle in how it takes over your mind. And once it does, you're testing again because these people are experts at taking over your mind and creating confusion and anxiety. So be sure to ask yourself for every question, what kind of question is it? Identify it quickly And this is important. The more you know your question types, the faster you can actually identify them, which leads you to following the procedures that will get you to that point of answering the question quickly and accurately. Keep in mind the test is tricky. All right, let's take a look at rhetorical purpose questions. Take a look. This is a classic rhetorical purpose question. How do we know it's a classic rhetorical purpose question? Look at your choices. They all begin with the word to, followed by a verb. To provide, to compare, to provide, to argue. Classic rhetorical purpose questions. The choices will begin with the word to, followed by a verb. The verbs could also be to give an example, to show, and other to be verbs. Now, there are several other styles of the rhetorical purpose question. You need to be able to identify these correctly because there are very specific procedures that you must follow to answer them. And if you follow the procedures and apply the rules, it gives you the answers. It's impossible to get it wrong when you're following the procedures and rules. So to know the other procedures and rules, be sure to subscribe to my online video course where I show you all the different styles of these questions and the methods that you use to answer each one. And by the way, I know that you're probably working a lot on this test. Most of my students who come to me have found my videos as a last moment when they're ready to quit. And they are struggling with all these other methods that they've learned along the way that don't work. They're so glad they found me because what I'm teaching you is direct, to the point. I'm teaching you exactly how the test works. And when you use the methods that I teach you, all of a sudden, the TOEFL becomes an easier test to take and you get that high score. Also, when you're doing things the wrong way, you got to practice a lot and still just get frustration. I have students practicing 10 hours a day. That's way too much. When you're doing things wrong, all the practice in the world won't help. But when you're doing things the right way, you only need a little practice to improve a lot. My students only practice 1, maybe 2 hours a day to get that score of 25 or higher in the reading section. So if that's where you want to be, go and subscribe to my video course right now. Don't waste any time. Just go, and that way you can start passing your TOEFL IBT today. All right, let's continue on with a related question, and that is the, let's see, rhetorical purpose. Oh yeah, inference questions. So many of my students hate these inference questions. Let's see how to identify them. This is a common inference question. How do I know it's an inference question? It has the word inferred in it. Inference questions will have the word inferred, implied, suggests, or concludes. Notice that I didn't read the question. I looked for a certain word. Once I saw the word inferred, I now know that this is an inference question. I have to put my mind in the mode to answer inference questions and start the procedures that lead me step by step to reading less, understanding more, answering the question quickly and accurately, and moving on with confidence, knowing that I'm doing the right thing. That's a big part of getting a high score. Knowing your procedures and rules. Identify your question type puts you in control. Knowing your procedures and rules keeps you in control so that you don't get tricked. You don't get fooled. You don't read a whole bunch of information, get confused and overwhelmed, waste a lot of time, and you know that once you're stuck on the reading, you're so exhausted that you can't even get through the listening, much less the speaking and writing. Getting through the reading section quickly, knowing that you've gotten a high score, really helps you to get that high score in the other sections. That's why we're doing this. It's important. The little things make a big difference. Let's take a look now at negative detail questions. This is a negative detail question, and how do I know it's a negative detail question? It has the word except in all capital letters. Negative detail questions will have the words except, not, or least in all capital letters. All right, understand that except questions. Identify them. I know it's easy to identify them, but consciously identify them because they are different. They're radically different. In this question, you have to eliminate choices that are mentioned in the passage. In all of the other questions, you eliminate choices that are different from what's stated in the passage or not mentioned. In this question, you have to choose the answer that is different or not mentioned. In other words, you eliminate those choices that are mentioned in the passage. It seems easy, but it's challenging, and I show you exactly how to do this step by step by reading less, understanding more, so you can get that higher score. All right. Now, those 7 questions are actually easy to identify. The detail questions, these are a real challenge to identify if you don't know what you're looking for. If you get confused on what kind of question type it is, you'll use the wrong procedures and then you'll get the wrong answer. Or you'll just take a long time and the test will take over your mind and you'll get anxious. So let's learn how to identify these questions because look, it's going to be 25 to 50% of your test is detail questions. So let's learn how to identify them. Take a look. All right, here is a common detail question. You'll see that it's asking about something from the passage. It ends in a question mark. It is not like any of the other questions. Let's take a look at another one. Here's another detail question, but notice that it's different. It doesn't have a question mark at the end of the question. It's an open-ended question, which is designed to create confusion, which leads to anxiety. Also, this question looks easy. It's very short, all the choices are short, and it's a relatively medium length paragraph. So you might think that you can answer this quickly and easily, but don't allow yourself to think like that. Those kinds of thoughts will lead to great anxiety. You must learn to control your emotions in the way that I teach you in my courses. Let's take a look at another detailed question. The question is short. It's direct. There's a question mark. All of your choices are fairly short and direct. However, if you look at your paragraph, it is designed to cause you to read more than you should. Most people answering this question would read the question, read the paragraph, and then try to pick the choice that is correct. ETS knows that's what you're trying to do, and they put extra information in the paragraphs to trick you into picking a wrong choice. They also put sentences in the paragraph that are long and that they're confusing as you read them. They create confusion in your mind, which creates anxiety. Also, they put vocabulary words in a paragraph like this that are overwhelming to you to make you feel like you don't know English very much and that you're not going to be able to answer the question. So understand that when it comes to detailed questions, it's going to be 25 to 50% of the reading section. So it's huge. You need to know how to answer these. But there's a lot of tricks and traps built into these questions that you need to be aware of so that you can be in control of your mind and follow the procedures and rules that are required to answer these questions quickly and accurately. I show you exactly how to do this for every question type in my online TOEFL video course. If you haven't subscribed to it, you should. I do have a lot of videos in my YouTube channel that are free to you, but you need to know more if you're going to score more than 21 on your TOEFL test and pass. All right? Okay, so that's it for today. Oh, wait. There's a couple of extra things I wanted to tell you about that you really need to know. We've talked about the detailed questions. How do I identify them? They don't look like any of the other 7. Okay? How do I identify detailed questions? There's no defining marker for detailed questions in itself. How do we know it's a detailed question? It's not one of the other 7. So make sure you can easily and quickly identify the other 7 question types so that when you see the detailed ones, by the process of elimination, you're going to know this is a detailed question. And knowing that will put you in the right mindset to start reading less, following the procedures and applying the rules to answering these questions. I talk about this a lot because this is a test of procedures and rules. Understand that in the United States, we do things differently here than you do in most countries. Here, everything is about procedures and rules. No matter where you go to work, they will have very specific procedures and rules that you must obey. And if you don't follow the rules, you can get fired, you can get fined, you can, in certain cases, because most of my students are in the medical field that are pharmacists or nurses or doctors or dentists, some teachers. If you don't follow the procedures as a dentist or a pharmacist or a nurse, what happens if something happens to one of your patients? Something goes bad. They're going to sue the hospital. And when that happens, the hospital is going to call you into a room where there's a bunch of attorneys, and not one of them is there for you. These attorneys are there to protect the hospital, or if you're at a dental facility, it's to protect the other doctors. So what are they going to ask you? They're going to ask you one question. Did you follow procedures? And if you say, well, it was an emergency, I was in a hurry, I had to go, they're going to go, oh my God, and you're in trouble. But if they ask you, did you follow procedures and rules? And you say, yes, absolutely. No matter what, I always follow the procedures and rules. They say, go back to work, we'll take care of it. The TOEFL IBT is not testing your English. It's testing your ability to learn something new procedures, new rules, and to be able to obey those procedures and rules while working under pressure. That's what this test is about. It's also a college readiness test. If you look up ETS, they don't tell you it's a test of English, although the name implies that test of English is a foreign language. It's not a test of English. That's why if your English is really advanced and you're still struggling with the TOEFL, it's not about your English. It's about knowing the procedures and rules. So when I'm teaching you the procedures and rules and how to control your mind and your emotions, I'm teaching you something that's absolutely crucial to passing this test. Now, if you haven't yet, subscribe to my YouTube channel. But better than that, go to my online video course and subscribe so that you know how to answer every question in all the sections of the test, even the psychological aspects of the test, so that you are fully prepared not only to pass this test. If you're just getting your license, this test will help you to get your license and get it now. If you're taking this test to go to university, understand that this is a test of college readiness. You may have noticed that the higher your score, the more prestigious the university you can apply to. That's because what I'm teaching you is the study skills you need if you're going to be going to university, especially a high-level university like NYU, Boston, uh, University of Pittsburgh, right? Harvard, Stanford, Brown. What I'm teaching you isn't just the skills you need to pass the stupid TOEFL IBT. I'm teaching you the skills you need to do very well while attending these high-level universities. Believe me, once you master what I'm teaching you, you'll be thankful for the rest of your life. I get letters all the time, and that's why I keep doing this. I love you. I respect for you. I have great respect for you, and I want you to pass your TOEFL and live that life that you deserve. All right, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.